Am I the a-hole for telling my insane coworker that she was not victimized by a literal baby? I, 28 female, work with another woman, 33 female, who is extremely pregnant at the moment. She is on maternity leave and is taking time off right now, but she is very dedicated to keeping our entire office keyed into every little detail of her pregnancy. She spams her ultrasounds and updates and baby bump pictures to the office group chat constantly. She also has already had the baby shower and is still requesting more stuff for the baby from us. She treats the baby like it's a child, playing Mozart and playing a math podcast to it so it will come out with a higher IQ. That's why I wasn't surprised when she showed up at the office for Bring Your Kids to Work Day, to make it about her pregnancy even though her kid has yet to be born. She started showing all the children her pregnant belly and telling them about it. My other coworker brought her baby too, who is a boy at 1.5 years old. My pregnant coworker approached him and told him there's a baby inside her, pointing at her stomach. She was wearing a dress. But the boy misunderstood since he is a literal baby and tried to look up her dress to see it. My coworker was shocked and screamed at him and startled him, causing him to start crying and shrieking and to run to his mom. The mom was furious and started yelling at my pregnant coworker that she's a lunatic and saying why is she even here since her kid isn't born yet. My pregnant coworker started screaming back that this is how predators start out and that she's the victim and the baby needs to be controlled. She turned to me for backup, but I told her she's insane thinking she's been victimized by a literal baby. She yelled at me that it's no excuse and that I'm enabling. Both my coworkers were asked to leave by security. I'm pretty sure her reaction to a baby looking up her dress to find the baby was insane, but maybe I'm losing it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not today home. He's literally a baby and doesn't understand pregnancy. It was no way sexual, and her saying it was sexually deviant is in itself deviant. Yes, like babies see memories as food. Not today home. A baby has absolutely no understanding of concepts like that. Probably doesn't even understand the concept of private areas yet. They don't even have self-awareness. Your coworker is insane. The pregnant coworker is clearly spending too much time on Reddit. Not today home. It seems like that poor baby was just trying to see the other baby. And what's with the "that's how predators start out" comment she made? A 1.5-year-old baby is not doing anything of a sexual nature. Not today home. Your coworker is interesting, less insane, and more self-centered. If she screams about a toddler looking up her dress, how on earth is she going to handle having a real baby that bites and throws things? I feel bad for her kid. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for mimicking my brother's tantrums to prove my parents treat us differently? My brother is 14 and I'm 15. It's always been really obvious to me that he's the favorite child and my parents treat him differently to me. His room is twice the size of mine. He gets money to go out with his friends and eat. But if I want to go out, I have to use money I saved for my birthday or Christmas or when grandma visits. I get in trouble for things he doesn't get in trouble for. There's higher expectations on me. And if my parents need help with something, it's always me they ask, not him. Stuff like that. I've been trying to explain to them that we get treated differently and they don't agree. They think it's just in my head. I would give them examples like how my brother is always really grumpy and barely speaks to them. But if I'm in a bad mood and barely speak to them for one day, I get in trouble. But they said it's different and got annoyed when I try to get them to explain why. My brother has been doing this thing lately where he gets annoyed about something. I think it's when he loses in a video game or his game freezes or something, but I'm not sure because it's always in his room. And he starts swearing and slamming his hand on his desk. Then he stomps around house slamming doors for like an hour. This happens maybe once a week. It scares my cat and honestly it scares me too. But my parents just ignore it. He did it yesterday while I was holding the cat. And my arms got shredded because the cat panicked. I asked my mom if she's gonna talk to him about his outbursts, and she said I should just ignore it and he'll grow out of it. So today, I decided I'd test out what happens if I do the exact same thing as him. I waited until the cat was on the other end of the house so I didn't scare him, and I swore and thumped my hand on my desk. I didn't even get to do anything else like slamming doors because my mom got so angry right away and burst into my room and started yelling at me. When she took a breath, I said, "Okay, so now you've practiced with me. You can tell my brother off next time he does it, right?" And she got even more mad and said I need to grow up and stop focusing on my brother so much. and that I should just focus on myself because it's up to my parents to decide how to deal with our behavior, not me. So now I'm grounded for swearing once and thumping my head on my desk once. But my brother does that and then slams doors and stomps around the house like once a week and has never even been told to stop. And still my parents won't admit they treat us differently. My dad even came in later to tell me off all over again for copying my brother just to prove a point. But wouldn't acknowledge I did actually make my point. Just kept saying I was just being immature. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. I think a lot of people are reading too much into this, maybe based on their own experiences and assumptions. My parents are totally fine to be around, except for the fact that they're strict when they think I'm out of line, but not with my brother. We get along fine every other time. Just because they're hypocrites doesn't mean they're psychos. My brother is not autistic. He's just recently gotten anger issues and my parents haven't bothered to do anything about it. He's not even completely dependent on them. Like, he cooks his own meals and cleans his own room and does chores just like me. He just gets extra money and a bigger room and doesn't get called out when he's being terrible. Not stay home. But my advice to a 15-year-old in your situation is to conform as much as you can. Get the absolute best grades that you can. The best education you can. And every possible benefit you can out of your parents. Even if it means sucking up. Then get the hell out. So many young people waste their possible advantages fighting about petty things. Listen, kiddo. One day you're on your own. I promise you, your parents suck in so many ways. Are you right? Are you wrong? Yep, it doesn't matter. Take what you can get and get out fast. Listen to this and trust me, your family will suffer through the special snowflake they are raising. They're messing up your brother for life, not being fair to you. Get the best education and use your time wisely for a better future. He will make it difficult for you if you call out their behavior. Good luck. Kid is too young to get it now. But OP, your parents are doing a disservice to your brother. Keep your head down because you need your parents' help to get into a comfortable situation, and compromising your future over petty things like this would be dumb. This is a situation where it doesn't matter if you're right. Do as the Stoics do, and don't try to change something you can't control. The only way you win is by getting a good education, and a good life after you left your home, which you wouldn't want to happen too quickly. I know what you mean. I am the eldest of 5 boys. The smaller kids get treated way better than I ever was. It doesn't matter, because it helps you later on. Not stay home. If your parents don't see the issue now, they probably never will. Sorry to say, but while he will probably get assistance for college, his first apartment, and perhaps wedding, you probably won't. Consider now how you want your life to be. Seriously. Start a game plan and make it happen. Think serious about careers, college, and how much money you want to make. They may not be there for you, so you are all you got, kid. Be financially independent sooner rather than later. I hope you are happy and make a ton of money. Adding, see how soon can you get your own bank account without your parents as co-signers. When you are that age, get one and put all money in there. In the next few years, gather copies of all your important documents. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving a letter on my mom and siblings' grave that hurt the feelings of my blended family? When I was 7, I lost my mom and twin siblings. She was 7 months pregnant with them at the time. And all I knew back then was she went to the hospital. And 2 weeks later, I was told she wasn't coming home and the babies wouldn't be either. My dad met his second wife, Nora, 7 months later. She was a widow with a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. They fell in love fast and decided we should be a family through adoption. I didn't want to be adopted, and said so and asked. They told me it would mean so much to everyone and would be good for me, because I would be able to stay if something happened to my dad. So I agreed to it, but was never actually on board. They call themselves my parents. She introduced herself as my mom, and my step-siblings said we were just siblings. I fluctuated a lot, and was put into therapy to try and remove the step permanently. But the feeling was never there. I missed my mom and my siblings. Nor my step-siblings never meant the same to me or as much. I never wanted to be a prick about it though. It was the 10th anniversary recently, and I went to the grave and placed a note on there basically saying how much I missed them, how I wish I had a chance to be the twins' big sister, and nothing was ever the same without them or mom. How much her loss still impacted me and I would give anything to have them back. Since nobody but me really visits the grave anymore, I didn't see the issue with it. But then my dad took the kids and they read the note. Pretty much everything imploded on itself. Nora asked me did I regret the adoption, and I said yes. My dad asked how I could write something that would crush Nora and the kids, because the note made it pretty clear he said to anyone who read it that I considered my mom and the twins my only mom and siblings, that even without being stated directly it was clear. I told him I did not expect them to see it, that nobody else had visited the grave in 4 years. He told me it wasn't an excuse because I still left it there, but I also feel that way after close to a decade. And imagine how painful it is for them to realize they love someone who never returned it, who never wanted it, even though everybody else has been happy. Nora told me I need to consider whether I'm going to work on moving past this and embracing them fully the way they've embraced me, or whether we're going our separate way as soon as I turn 18. Dad said they will pay for therapy if I am willing to love and accept them as my mom and siblings the way they deserve. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry for your loss, and the way your dad and stepmom have steamrolled over things. You were 7. Out of nowhere, you were told your world had changed. I wonder if you actually got enough time, space, and support to process this? You left a letter for your mom and sibs. No one else had a right to read it, much less take offense. From what you say, you weren't saying anything against them. And now you are being threatened with being kicked out at 18 if you don't come around? Take up the therapy if you can. But they should have learned a long time ago that love is grown, not forced, and that the heart expands. Loving is not a zero-sum game. And they should stop being offended that you have room to love your mom and siblings still too. I would say no. It was all very confusing for me and very fast. But I don't know if Dad would have been able to go any slower and do the best for him. It comes down to he made the choice. He made to try and be the best dadded person for me, which I get. It was right for him in the end, but for me, probably not. Not stay home. I'm trying to wrap my brain around removing a note from a grave and then confronting the person who wrote it. It wasn't for the person who lifted it. If you wanted them to know those things, you'd tell them. What did your dad hope to find? A letter saying how you're so happy with your new and approved family? How could he not lose your trust regardless of the letter's contents? I also think there is a level of erasure going on here. Your dad wants his new woman to replace your mother, and that's just not a healthy thing to do, even if it makes his choices feel good. Your stepmom cannot be your actual mother. She can work to fill the role in every way and earn your love/affection over time, but this isn't the kind of thing you go to therapy for. A therapist isn't going to say, love this woman like she deserves or something. It's not how therapy works. Hell, I'd take them up on the offer. Tell the therapist this is the outcome you are being punished until you achieve. See how fast the therapist corrects them. I think it was less erasure because we used to all visit both graves. But I think what happened was they thought it could be the same, equal, and could make everything better for me the way it did for them. If the younger kids could grow up not feeling like they missed out, then I could too. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they don't get to put their feelings first in this and they aren't the only ones struggling? 8 months ago, my sister found out she was not our mom's bi kid. Our dad was married to her bi mom, and her mom died soon after she was born. Dad met mom when she was 13 months old, and mom adopted her and they decided to raise her believing she was mom's kid. They cut out her grandparents and extended family because they wouldn't go along with being just family acquaintances. My sister told me they were in her life for a while, but once Dad met Mom, they wanted no other mom in my sister's mind. So they decided they couldn't be grandparents or aunts and uncles either. It all had to be just like general people, not family. Grandparents' rights weren't a thing in our state at the time, and so they could just shut them out and act like they never existed. The only kind of hint we ever had looking back is when my sister needed her birth certificate for something when we were kids, and we were not allowed to help look. Our parents were actually mad at us for trying to help. At the time, it was weird, but we didn't think about it too hard. Looking back now, it is more clear. My sister found out when her cousin tracked her down on Facebook and made contact. It was a whirlwind. She was hurt, mad, felt betrayed, and questioned how she could deal with the news. She ended up making contact with her mom's family, and it's been going really well. Now, she and our parents fight a lot. They wanted her to make no contact. They said it wasn't fair on mom who raised and loved her. It is her real mom, and that she didn't need those people. It got nasty. My parents keep talking about how much they're struggling with us, and how hurt they are she reached out to them. I snapped the other day, and told them their feelings don't get to go first here. Hers do, because she's the one who found out this big secret. I also told them we both find it weird too. My sister has a whole family I'm not part of, and she's learning to come to terms with the fact there was a woman who loved her so goddamn much, and our dad and mom just completely, utterly erased her and everyone else from her life who could have loved her too. My parents told me I was cold and uncaring towards them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Good on you for defending your sister and giving her one person to lean on. This was seriously one of my biggest nightmares when my kids were little. That something would happen to me. My husband would remarry, and I'd be completely erased. I remember my husband swearing to me that if anything happened to me, that my babies would always know who I was, and that he'd ensure my memory stayed alive. I don't know how Opie's dad can live with himself. He not only completely erased his daughter's mother, but also cut off this poor dead woman's parents and siblings from her daughter in such an utterly cruel and callous way. Opie's father is beyond the a-hole. His behavior was downright evil in my opinion. Not the a-hole. They are absolutely unhinged. They lied to both of you and caused all this upset. They deserve to be suffering as a consequence of their terrible actions. Opie lost out too. It is possible that her sister's family would have welcomed Opie into their lives and hearts as well. Even if they hadn't, it still would have been good for my sister. This pain she knows now wouldn't exist. Maybe a different kind of pain would be there. But at least it wouldn't be pain built on deceit. Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my parents to be involved in my ex's new family? Original post. I was previously married for about 8 years. While we were married, my parents seems to never like my spouse. And more than once, I had to ask them to stop saying unkind things to her. They kept pushing us to have kids, but we never did. Eventually, we had some marital issues. And to be clear, I am not blaming her for these issues. It was both of us. And we're on a trial separation while in counseling. And at the time, the agreement was that we were not seeing other people. However, suddenly my spouse was pregnant. And it was not possible that it was mine, as the last time we've been intimate was 2 months prior to her conception date. That was the end of the marriage, and I filed for divorce 2 days after I found out. My parents, however, knowing fully that it was not my child and that a conception was my spouse cheating on me, then chose to support my ex through her pregnancy. They chose to play grandparents to my ex's kid. And when I told them it was an issue for me that they were so involved in her life still, their solution was to lie, poorly, and now just not talk about it. I found out secondhand that not only did they go to her wedding, to the guy she cheated with, but that my father gave her away at the wedding. They now also play grandparent to her 2 additional kids with a new hubby. They go on vacations with her and her family. This has been going on for 10 years and I feel like I lost my parents in my divorce. I can't talk to my parents because they will just lie to me like they do about seeing my ex. I found out, again secondhand, that my ex and her family are staying with my parents and are there with them today for Christmas, which explains why I wasn't invited when all my siblings were. My parents have said that they feel like I'm being ridiculous, and that it's their Christian duty to look out for my child even if I feel like abandoning the kid is okay, which they say is mine because we were married when she got pregnant. They blame me for the family never being able to be together since I won't attend family events that she's going to, which more and more is all of them. Everyone in my family has pretty much treated me as persona non grata for abandoning the family. Am I the a-hole here? Am I the one destroying the family? Should I just play uncle to my ex's kids that I want nothing to do with? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. This is disgusting. Remind them that she broke the marriage covenant, but also a commandment. Time to write the whole lot of them off. If having grandchildren is more important than their actual child, don't give them the choice. It's good to hear that I'm not as irrational as they make me feel about the whole thing. Their response during the divorce about her breaking the marriage covenant is that I needed to really think about forgiveness and maybe learn to turn the other cheek. Are you even on a birth certificate, Opie? Is there any doubt anywhere that they could be using to delude themselves about paternity? It's crap that they picked her over you in the divorce. Cut them out. No, the birth certificate is accurate for both the child's parents, neither of which is me. Not the a-hole. Your parents are bizarre and toxic. It's relieving to hear that I'm not the one being bizarre and toxic. I mean, like, really relieving. Thank you. You're definitely not the a-hole. Reading about your dad walking her down the aisle and you not being invited to Christmas literally made my jaw drop. They sound seriously awful. One thing I'm not clear on, not that it changes my verdict nor excuses their behavior. Do your parents truly believe the baby's yours? If so, does your ex refuse to clarify? just curious at the depths of crazy going on with them. They 100% know the kid is not mine. My exes never even tried to say they were. Since the day I confronted her knowing she was pregnant, she has been clear and honest about the kid's genetics. And now for the update. Last year for Christmas, my parents invited my 4 adult siblings and their families and my ex and her new family to Christmas at their house. Since I had made it clear I don't want to spend time with my ex and her new family, I was seen as causing a problem, so they just didn't tell me about it. One of my siblings let it slip accidentally on Christmas Eve that they were all there without me, making it clear everyone felt it was my fault I could be invited. It was deviating to feel like I was being excluded from my own family yet again, to be lied to yet again. Much to my shock, on the original post I was judged not the a-hole, and it made me see much of my entire life's interactions with my family differently. Follow-up. 1. As suggested, I started going low contact. Essentially, I just stopped trying to maintain a contact with them and let them do all the work there, which they haven't. So low contact has been in essence no contact, which has both sucked and been healthier for me. I don't even know what they are doing for Christmas this year, which is actually easier than knowing they are doing something and choosing to exclude me. 2. I did print out some of the posts from last year and show them to my therapist as suggested. He berated me for listening to people on the internet and cutting off a vital part of my support system. After 2 months of weekly appointments listening to him talk about ways to fix the relationship and apologize to my family and make amends with them, I just stopped making appointments with him. That was in March. 3. After stopping contact with my family and therapist, I found I had a really hard time even being around my friends. Super anxious and second-guessing every interaction. So I've kind of stopped seeing them either. I had a good work-from-home job, so I just started working all the time. It was good for my career, and I got a major promotion in Q3. It was a large enough promo that I don't stress about money anymore, which was a constant stress before. So spending my energy somewhere other than my own family has been life-changing. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. Super proud for choosing to put yourself first. Your family are really a bunch of narcissistic a-holes. Second, what the hell is wrong with your therapist? That is some first-grade BS that he has been telling you. A good therapist should and would never tell you to apologize. Some people need their license revoked. He should have recommended going no contact a long time ago. I can only applaud you for not going to them anymore. But please find a new and good therapist or a support group to help you. Try talking to your friends, but only if they support you going no contact with family and therapist. That should be a good indicator if they are good friends. Good friends will support you no matter what. Please take care of yourself. You are worth it. And to hell with your parents and family for putting you through this. Even your ex, she should be ashamed of herself. Again, please take care of yourself. Hope the new year will bring you joy, strength, and happiness. I'm just not sure how to talk to a therapist, and probably how to talk to my friends because it's just hard for me to know what to say. I feel like talking about any of this is just a quick way to end a relationship. Like they have normal families and just can't understand what I'm saying, and it just makes me look like an a-hole. So I just don't know what to say, but I'm always anxious about saying anything. I do feel like not talking to my family has changed my life a lot for the better, even if it is lonelier. OP, your therapist was terrible and not deserving of the title. Please don't let it sour your views on therapy in general. It can truly be life-changing and I hope you give it another chance. You'll know you've found a right one when you leave the appointment feeling better, not worse. I'm not sure how to find that. The thought of calling around and finding someone and dealing with waiting lists and people not taking new patients. I just feel like it would be a waste to do that again. It took months the last time. Good for you for prioritizing yourself and getting ahead in your career. But now is the time to balance your life again. Reach out to your friends with just a, hey, sorry for going silent, but I was dealing with some pretty consuming things. Find a new therapist who can just let you talk through your issues and not tell you what to do. You need to find a healthy perspective on your life before you start being able to live it. Quite frankly, your life seems lonely and one-sided. You work from home, have limited contact with friends and colleagues, and no contact with family. I am some random stranger on the internet. And if you are happy being alone, live your life in happiness and at peace. But make sure that is what you really want. Or are you too hurt to try for human interaction again? Either way, I wish you well. I feel like I've written and deleted that text to friends so many times. I just don't feel like I would know what to say to them. I don't feel like any interaction with them would be good, productive, worth it. I don't know. I guess I just don't feel like they will understand or care. And why should they? So I don't feel like it's even worth trying. I'm not sure being alone is what I would choose, but I also don't feel like I know how to let anyone in anymore. I guess the reality is, once you understand just how much even your parents and siblings see you as disposable, it's really hard to be open to being thrown away again, especially by people you think are friends. So I deleted a text and keep them as friends. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling the mother of my child's brother that he can't be on my son's life? I'm 25 and I was going to get married to my boyfriend Matthias, 26, in July. We were really excited to get married, but he died in a car crash. I was destroyed. My ex-best friend Christy was there for me. She always brought me food when I needed it and took care of everything in my house. The thing is, Christy is pregnant. I asked her lots of times who was the father, but she always said she didn't know. Then 6 weeks ago, Christy came to watch movies and eat dinner with me, and I asked her if she was going to do a DNA test to at least know who the father is. She suddenly started crying and said that she knew who the father was. It was Matthias. I went pale. I didn't say a word. She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away from me and told her to never talk to me again and blocked her everywhere. Then 2 weeks ago, I went to the doctor and found out that I was pregnant too. I made a post on my Twitter telling that I was pregnant. Somehow, Christy found this and sent me an email telling me that I should present my son or daughter to her son when they are born because they are siblings. I said no, I don't want my son or daughter to have any contact with theirs. She said that I was mean and an a-hole for this because the kids need to know each other, because they are family. I told this to some of my friends and they have really divided opinions. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Matthias died in October 2022 and we were going to get married in July 2023. Now I am 16 weeks pregnant. When I found out I was pregnant on January 8, I was 14 weeks. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You have nothing to do with that woman. If Matthias was alive, maybe. But you don't have any obligation to initiate a relationship with this affair child. You can leave that choice to your kid when they grow up. Thanks for your opinion. OP, no judgment for me. I would just point out that realistically, you might not have much control in if/how/when your kid knows about Christy's kid. That is, I imagine that you will allow some relationship of your kid with the paternal family, and that a paternal family will also accept Christy's kid if proven to be related to them. Thus, the paternal family will have open relationships with both kids. Even if you not allow them to meet, they will most likely be aware of each other from the start. Unless, of course, you do not want to allow a relationship with a paternal family or they do not want a relationship with one of the kids. Not the a-hole. I think it's a very hurtful situation that you're in, and right now you're making decisions based on emotions. In the future, if you want to possibly have your child have a relationship with her kid, I'd ask for a DNA test. Because what if she's fibbing about who the father is? Because Matthias is dead and can't dispute it. If she doesn't want a DNA test, then no relationship, as you don't want your child to have a sibling relationship with someone who may not really be related to them. Good luck. Thanks. Yes, it really is something very painful for me. And yes, my mind is very clouded by the pain that this has put me through. Without a doubt, I will ask him for a DNA test to prove that Matthias is the father of her son, but it seems to me that she is telling the truth. I don't know why Christy would do that to me. Either way, she is not a very good friend to you. If she fibbed, maybe because she really doesn't know the father and just wants to give her child a name and family. If she's not fibbing, then your boyfriend cheated on you with your friend, a friend who knew you were together and you loved him. Not a good friend to you. I know. There is no way I will speak to her again. I might reconsider letting the kids meet, but that's about it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister to stop thinking of us as sisters? I, 15 female, technically have a half-sister Jane. 16 years ago, my mom had an affair with Jane's dad and I'm the result of that. However, I have been raised by my mom's husband and he has always considered me his daughter, and I will always consider him my dad. Jane's parents were engaged and didn't get married because of the affair, and her mom moved to another city before she was even born. So, when my parents told me the truth, I did learn about Jane as well, but I don't really care. Jane moved in with her dad over winter break and got registered at my school. She's in grade 9, I'm in grade 10. Since she learned who I am, She just won't leave me alone. She's kept asking me to come over, telling me how our dad won't stop talking about me, how we can do all the stuff sisters do, and so much other crap. I've let her down gently each time. Yesterday, her dad sent her cousin to pick her up for a dentist appointment and he sent him in a Porsche. She asked me to come with her because it'll be nice having my sister there with me. I don't want people knowing she's my sister though, so I got really mad and told her to screw off and stop thinking of us as that. Of course, she cried and now I'm suspended and writing this from home. Was I an a-hole to her? No a-holes here. You're both young and in a very complicated situation. I can totally understand why you wouldn't feel the need to know someone that you don't feel any connection to. It's different than growing up in a house with a sibling. On the other hand, I don't blame Jane for wanting a relationship with you. The poor girl's mom was cheated on by your shared biological father. I can understand why she would try to see the little bit of positive that at least she gets a sister out of it. Have you talked to your mom and dad about it? I definitely don't think you have to have a relationship with anyone you don't want to. But maybe they can help you find a kinder way to explain it to Jane and close the book on that issue. The issue is that Opie doesn't just want to decline a relationship with Jane. She wants to tell everyone that Jane is lying about them being related. Jane is allowed to tell the truth about who her family is, including the fact that she has a half-sister. If Opie is embarrassed by the situation, she should take it up with her mom. Yeah, I have. My mom doesn't want me to have anything to do with her dad, and doesn't want it exposed that she cheated. My dad just said he trusts me to do what's right. It's not fair your mom doesn't want you to have anything to do with your bio dad. That's wrong of her to say. All the adults have handled this badly. You are a child. The last thing you should be worried about is your mom or dad being humiliated for their own actions. They all had to have known this would come up sooner or later. And instead of being the adults and making the best out of the situation they literally created, they are making the situation worse. I would suggest therapy. You seem very angry and aggressive in your comments. I feel very badly for both you and Jane. She doesn't and did deserve the way you were handling this. I think you were very rude and cruel to your sister instead of directing that anger towards mom and dad. Feels a little like beating up on a person weaker than you, instead of the people you were actually angry with. You are very young. Go to therapy and stop worrying about the adults. Let them handle that. She doesn't want me to have anything to do with him, but she's never tried to stop him from having anything to do with me. I see him every now and then, and she never tries to stop him from seeing me. He never fought for custody of me. He thinks that coming around once a year, or once every 2 years with fancy gifts and promises and stuff, gives him a right to me. It doesn't. My wife stole our daughter's college money to fund her shopping addiction and wants me to take the blame. Plus updates. Original post. I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and I don't know what to do. And the problem is, I can't discuss it with anyone I'm close with for privacy reasons. I've been with my wife, Andrea, 48 female, and my stepdaughter, Cassie, 17 female for 8 years now. I love them both to death, and Cassie's a very brilliant young woman. Recognizing her potential, me and Andrea decided to put together a college fund for Cassie so she wouldn't be crushed by debt. Over the years, it has amounted to over $200,000. Cassie is aware of this and is banking on it since she's trying to get into an Ivy League. To make a long story short, last week, I found out that almost $170,000 of the money was missing from the account. I freaked out and asked Andrea if she knew anything about it. She teared up and said that she had been spending the money over the years to fund her spending habit. I was furious, but I had a moment of clarity. I've browsed these subs enough to know that an affair was possible, so I asked her if she was having one. She adamantly denied it and offered any proof I needed. Social media accounts, emails, her work phone, everything. She offered to show me the receipts as well. There was nothing that popped out as suspicious, and the math from the receipts added up as well, so I let it go. But we still had the major problem of the money being gone. She described herself as a shopping addict, and the money from Cassie's account was just too tempting not to use. She didn't make excuses, but offered no solutions either. As stated before, I was beyond furious. She ruined Cassie's chances at going to college debt-free and has changed the trajectory of her whole life. I'd ask her to stay with her sister while I tried to figure this out. Cassie was concerned about why she was leaving, but we just said we needed a little bit of space. I asked Andrea to come back home yesterday, and we had an extremely long discussion about how to handle this. She stopped me from talking and asked a favor of me. She asked if I could take the fall for her. For context, her and Cassie don't get along for a variety of reasons, and knowing how independent Cassie is, she will probably leave right after college if not during. In fact, me and Cassie get along very well and she comes to me for a lot of her issues. Andrea fears this will permanently drive Cassie away and she doesn't want to lose her. I told her that before we even talk about that, she needed to acknowledge her mistake and own it. She needed to go to individual therapy. We needed couples counseling. She needed to find a shopaholic support group, and that I would be controlling the finances from now on. She said those terms were steep but fair. I said she needed to tell Cassie what she did, apologize, and hope for the best. She refused and said she could never lose Cassie. She said I could survive the mistake, but she couldn't. I told her that in order to even consider me taking the fall, she needs to agree to my terms. I don't know what the hell to do. The last thing I want to do is lie to Cassie, but I don't want Andrea and Cassie to split up forever. And the worst part about this whole thing is that Cassie's life is ruined either way. And I don't know how to replenish the money, other than maybe borrowing from my 401k. Do you guys have any suggestions? Divorce is always an option, but I love Andrea despite her mistakes. And me dating at age 52 is next to impossible. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Perhaps the reason they don't get along is because Cassie recognizes that Andrea is the type to do these kinds of things and guilt-trip others to take the blame, instead of accepting what she has done and how it has impacted her family. Although it may be a tough conversation for Andrea to have now, it might show Cassie that her mom is capable of admitting mistakes and growing. Taking the blame for it and finding out later, in my opinion, might make things worse. Andrea is a widow, and Cassie took the death of her father very hard since she was so young. According to Andrea, a lot of their problems started there out of grief and anger. Then Cassie grew up and she's developed into a bit of tomboy. Andrea is a kind of a girly girl and doesn't relate to Cassie dressing up tomboyish. They don't agree on much. Cassie wants to be a physicist. Andrea wants her to do something that has more money-making potential. Plus, there's usual teenage daughter and mother strife. They have screaming matches that I have to intervene in. Dude, how did you not see that all the money was gone or that your wife was buying all this stuff? To answer your question, I had really nothing to do with the account other than contributing money. I just took her word for it. She showed me statements from time to time, so I had no reason to suspect anything. Plus, we have separate finances, except for a joint account for household expenditures and bills. Although Cassie's my daughter, officially I'm only stepdad, so Andrea handles all matters related to her finances unless Cassie asks me for something directly. Also, I wasn't a lone contributor. Her grandparents on both sides contributed as well as my own parents. I only discovered what was going on when my wife left a statement out in the open. I'm now believing she simply pocketed whatever money she got and doctored the statements. I knew the amount that was supposed to be there because a lot of the money came in the beginning. Her grandparents initially contributed $75,000. Mine contributed another $30,000, plus the amount that I added over the years. Don't take from your savings but hers. Make her sell all her belongings. I asked her to take money from her account to pay her back, but she said protecting her retirement is important to her and that she could take out a loan since her credit is excellent. Surprisingly enough, she doesn't run up her credit cards. Now I know how. Also, I'm hesitant to do this. I understand everyone wants her to fry for this, and I do too. However, if I'm to stay with Andrea, I don't want her to have to continue working until she's dead. I would like to enjoy our retirement together. My retirement is very healthy, plus I have a few investments and an inheritance. I could survive the hit. The most important thing is Cassie gets to go to whatever school it is she wants, and don't have to worry about it. But the comments are right. I'm not letting Andrea off the hook. She's going to pay for this and she will be telling Cassie. Do not take the blame. Your wife admitting her mistake to her daughter is the only way your wife's addiction is going to stop. If she can't admit her wrongdoings to the person it hurts the most, she can't move on from her addiction. To add to that, taking the blame isn't going to improve your daughter's relationship with her mom. It's only going to create a situation where she feels that she has two parents that she can't trust or rely on. Don't take that away from her by turning yourself into another unreliable adult in her eyes. You're looking out for her best interest always, and she should know that. 100% this. Do not take the blame. Your wife made her bed. Make her lie in it. She did this to her own flesh and blood. Don't be your scapegoat. You love Cassie and don't deserve the fallout that will occur. Now for the updates. After everyone in here knocked some sense into me, I realized I can't lie to Cassie. I love her too much, and she deserves the absolute truth, no matter how ugly and hard it is. I will be talking to Andrea and telling her that we need to tell her the truth together as a condition of us staying together, or else I will initiate divorce proceedings and tell Cassie anyway. Also, as someone suggested, I don't need her trying to flip the script on me, so I'll record our interactions going forward. Thanks. Update 2. I want to thank everyone here for really opening my eyes yesterday. You all are right. I need to put Cassie first. And like I said, I'll be telling the absolute truth. Even if she gets mad at me and disowns me, at least I'll know I did the right thing. In addition, I'm going to pay for college myself. I can pull money from a couple of places, such as my retirement and inheritance, so it'll be okay. If I have to live a little frugally during retirement and work a few extra years, then so be it. Cassie's worth it. I honestly doubt her mother is going to sell her stuff, so that's why I'm taking this route. As for Andrea, I've been criticized for wanting to let Andrea off the hook, so to speak. But it's easy to say when really deep feelings aren't involved. That being said, I don't think I can stay with her. What she did is horrendous, and she ruined our daughter's future for addiction. We had a long discussion late last night, and I threatened divorce unless she told Cassie the truth. She begged me not to do this, but I put my foot down, and eventually she agreed, but only if I agreed not to divorce her, and I helped to repair their relationship. I likely won't be doing either. She made her bed, so she can sleep in it. Now for the second story. I killed my dad and I don't regret it. Plus update. I, 27 female, never really had a great relationship with my dad, 55 male. When I was 6 years old, him and my mom went through a nasty divorce. It was so bad my mom had resorted to substances to help cope. It got so bad that she overdosed and had to go to rehab, and I was forced to live with my dad. For the first couple of years, it was great. I was his only child, so I was really spoiled. And it was like that until I turned 9 years old and my dad met his now wife we're gonna call Sherry. I never liked Sherry because I felt like she was trying to steal my dad away from me. Whenever I had a school function, I wanted my dad to come. Sherry always kept him from coming. I ran track and played soccer, and my dad used to always come to my little peewee games, but when Sherry came, it was he had something better to do. Sherry also has kids herself. She has 2 sons and a daughter. I kind of enjoyed having other kids in the house, because being an only child did get boring. I got along great with her kids. Me and her daughter was the same age, and her sons were 2 years older than us, twins. As I grew up, my dad started to grow further apart from me and got closer to Sherry's kids. He would go to school functions, games, recitals, parent-teacher conferences, anything that included parents. He would always show up for Sherry's kids and nothing for me. It gotten so bad that we had to have a meeting with my dad and a guidance counselor because she noticed how my grades would start to slip and how I never participated in anything anymore. And wouldn't you guess it, my dad didn't even show up to the meeting. I started to slowly hate my dad after that and wouldn't even try talking to him anymore. The breaking point for me was my 15th birthday. I'm Colombian, and everyone knows that in the Latin community, the 15th birthday is the most important day for a little girl. During my birthday month, my dad actually started to acknowledge me and we started to plan my quins. And I was the happiest I've been in years. We picked out the venue, my dress, the song me and dad were gonna dance to. We sent out invites, picked out decorations. Everything was going great until a week before the party. Everything was paid for. People already RSVP'd and everything was set in stone. Until my dad announced that we were going on a vacation the day of my quins. I asked him about my party, and he said he canceled it and wanted to go on vacation instead. I pretended to be okay with it and said okay and asked where we were going. Then Sherry laughed and said that I wasn't going with them and that I was going to stay with my grandma instead. After that day, I just decided to give up on any kind of relationship me and my dad could possibly have. I had no more birthdays, no Christmas gifts, and basically had to fend for myself. Which was crazy because my family was rich and was really well off. I had to get a job in order to get new clothes and shoes, hygiene stuff, hair care products, etc. When I turned 18, I moved out and went to live with my grandma and cut off all communication with my dad and his family. I graduated high school and went to college for orthodontics. Years went by and I never spoke to my dad or heard any news about him or his family until I got a call from a hospital. It was about how my dad got into a bad car wreck and he was basically dead and was on life support, and how I was the last person on his emergency call list and that no one else answered. I went to the hospital and they told me the same thing they said over the phone and asked me if I wanted to keep the life support. And without thinking, I said no and said to take him off of it. He killed my spirit, and so I pulled the plug on him, and I didn't feel bad at all. It's been years since that day, and I now have a husband with 3 kids that I love to death, and I still don't feel bad about what I did. Now for the top comments. I'm surprised you were even on the list, to be honest. Did he just forget to remove you? Also curious as to how or why no one else answered, as it sounds like the only person he neglected was you. Also, what was the fallout? The rest of his family had to find out at some point that you elected to remove the life support. Not going to lie, this is fairly dark. If he had a DNR, or the doctor said he had no hope, / was going to be a vegetable, then by all means cut it off and walk away. But was that even the case? It sounds like you still have some demons inside you that needs exorcising. You may want to talk to someone about that. To answer your question, to my knowledge, my dad had only 2 people on as emergency contact list, his mom and aunt. My grandmother died a few months before his car wreck, and my aunt was on vacation around that time. I was kind of surprised myself to find out that I was also on the list. Also, he was basically left brain dead after the car wreck, and there was really nothing they could have done. That makes more sense then. Also, he clearly never bothered to update that list, as not even his wife was on it, assuming they were even still together or not in the same car. The worst you did was to deny anyone who did care about him the chance to say goodbye, which, if the way he treated you was any indication, it probably wasn't many. Keep trying to live your best. You may also want to edit in that point so people don't think you're some kind of sociopath. So, what had happened to Sherry and her kids? Why weren't they on the list? What was their response to the decision? My dad had a will and got Sherry's kids' trust funds, and left some money for Sherry in the house, and split up everything else among some family members. I honestly don't know why they weren't on the list. It was kind of a surprise that I was even on there, and they were upset that I pulled the plug. If he was brain dead, you didn't kill him. In my opinion, that is the kindest thing you can do for them. I thought this was going in a different direction. What happened to Sherry and the other kids? Well, last I heard, Sherry got remarried. Her 2 older sons are also married and have families of their own, and her daughter is a single mom. I mean, where were Sherry and their kids when Dad was in the hospital? No one else answered. Did they explain? Did they care you made a final decision? They weren't on the emergency call list, so they didn't know. Now for the update. So a lot of people was wondering why I was the one that got the decision about ending his life support, and why Sherry wasn't on his emergency contact list, and it also got me thinking. So to give the strangers I let into my life a peace of mind, I decided to call up Sherry's daughter. She's the only one I still keep in contact with, and ask her if she knew anything about that. She told me that Dad and Sherry had gotten divorced like 2 or 3 months before his car accident, and no one knew because they wanted to keep it between the family. Nobody still knows about the divorce except for Sherry and her kids, me, and now thousands of strangers, LMAO. Also, I do want to tell you guys I did have a makeup quiz when I was in college. It wasn't as grand as the one I was supposed to have, but I really didn't care. I just spent it with the ones I loved dearly. Also, I just want to say for the ones who are calling me psycho, that happened a little over 3 years ago, and I am a totally different person now. I've been going to therapy since before that incident, and I have let go of any demons I had inside of me years ago. I've forgiven my dad, and I don't just focus on the bad things he did to me anymore. I only think about all the good times we had, and when he was a pretty decent father to me.